Hey, Junaid, you are looking good, my friend.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Jonathan. How you doing? Jake
I'm good.
Ron.
And if I remember, there's something I'm supposed to change audio settings wise in Zoom, right?
Yeah.
Where do I do
Just
that?
so it's under audio. If you click on audio settings, there's a thing called automatically adjust Microsoft microphone volume.
Audio
And
settings. Speaker, microphone, audio profile, background noise suppression.
Yeah, you can turn that on if you want.
Yeah, that's on auto.
It's basically the input
Automatically adjust
volume.
microphone. Okay,
Yeah.
that's now turned off.
All right, perfect. So this way it's gonna be a good volume throughout the conversation. Awesome.
Wonderful. Is that doing what it needs to do?
Yes, it is.
Cool. Did
All
it.
right, man.
Very proud of
How's
myself.
good? I'm glad. How's everything been? Family good?
Man, I would say overall it's been good. We completed my dad's celebration of life service on Sunday. I'm grateful that it went well.
Yeah.
Grateful that I'm kind of moving back into, the new normal. But yeah, it was a lot. I mean, we had probably 80 people come out, bunch of family from all
Wow.
over the place. So
Yeah, yeah.
it went really, really well. I'm grateful.
I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to hear. It's so times like these reminds us how fragile this life is.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Certainly a vote in the category of don't do anything you don't love doing because
Mm-hmm.
you never know. Like
Yeah.
just, it's one of those. My dad, I mean, to his credit, my dad, I don't think ever really worked a day in his life because
Mm,
he just loved what he did so much. I mean, meeting all of these people that were friends of his from work. I
yeah.
just think, even though my dad sold log splitters and ammo cans and all kinds of automotive stuff, like I
Mm-hmm.
think he was just like, oh, I'm just calling my friends and seeing who wants to buy things. Like he just really had a good time. So it's one of those, yeah, if you do what you love, you'll probably have more fun.
That gives me a lot of insight into how and what gave you the confidence to go into where you're going, and that's gonna be a really good insight. I mean, I'm always looking for those little teeny tidbits of information that people don't really talk about a whole lot, but it's what sets the foundation. All right, so I'm gonna hit
Well, there's no doubt
pause.
about it.
Mhm.
It's an interesting thing when you go through it for sure. It's probably one of the most introspective periods of my life.
Yeah. Yeah, just last week we had two uh that's close to what my family who my family knows. A friend of mine's dad passed away. I think he was in his 80s, and then my wife's brother-in-law's no, my wife's sister-in-law's cousin passed away, and she was 35. So it's really interesting. Like you never know when we're gonna go, and it's pretty. It's a great time to reflect for sure. All right, so let's jump into the episode podcast. I'm just gonna hit pause and record again.
Sounds great.
Welcome back to another episode of Hacks and Hobbies. I'm your host, Junaid Ahmed, and today we have an incredible guest whose journey and insights are going to inspire and educate us all. Meet Jonathan.
Well, I got to tell you, Junaid, whoever this incredible guest is, I can't wait till he gets here, and I can't wait to meet him.
I know, me neither. So his name is J. Cron, is Jonathan Crunch. I don't know how to spell the last.
Yeah, I'll save you the trouble. It's actually why the nickname Jcron exists. It's not an
Right,
invented
exactly.
nickname. It's half of my last name combined with my first initial. It's very similar to J-Lo, just nowhere near as cool and nowhere near as much street cred. And it exists because my last name is Scandinavian. It has a T at the end that nobody knows what to do. Is it
Right.
Kronstedt, Kronstedit? So
Yeah,
the nickname's a whole lot easier. But yeah,
love
Jonathan
it.
Kronstedt is the name, and Jcron for all of my friends, which now includes anybody listening.
Boom. Jake Ron, thank you so much, man. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to speak with you. I think it was a few years ago that we got connected. You were starting a podcast, and we kept in connection. And I was like, hey, why am I not bringing Jake Ron to the podcast? We talk about entrepreneurship. We talk about business. We talk about the journey that it all takes. And I would love to, learn more about your journey and how you got into the world of business and entrepreneurship itself.
Yeah, we can dive into all of it. And for those of you watching, what you're about to find out as far as why I didn't start a podcast, it's because I realized you actually need to look good on camera. And today you're catching me in 4-year-old girl dad mode, running around all morning. And then I'm like, oh shit, I've got a podcast with Junaid. Yeah, we're just going to be authentic here. So you're going to get the unedited version of the story. We can drill into anything you like, Junaid. Let me know where you want to start off, and I'll tell you more about how we got to here.
Beautiful. So when you started out, you were you've been through a lot of different companies. What was the first experience into saying, "Hey, this is really pulling my strings of passion. I want to go down and do this."
So I would say I've got a little bit of a different view on life from my early career. And I talk about this often, that I think a lot of us at times run the risk of having our passion become our purgatory or punishment if our passion doesn't align with something that's economically viable in a very clear and self-evident way. And so for me early on, the early stages of my career, I didn't really love the doing of whatever the thing was. I
Mm,
loved being good at whatever the thing was I was doing. So Cal Newport wrote a book about this called So Good They Can't Ignore You. And what I found that really fulfilled me was winning. And where I ended up, largely because of my dad's upbringing, all of my earliest jobs were in sales. My dad was in sales growing up. So of course, turned 16 years old, living here in Southern California. My first job is telemarketing for a timeshare company. And
mm,
that was where I really learned, like, okay, I'm going to pick up a phone, talk to a stranger. And if that stranger does a thing, I'm going to have opportunities and earn some money coming out of it. So then that led to other phone sales positions, sold, vocabulary building tapes called Verbal Advantage out of the Sky Mall catalog, sold conversational confidence, audio cassette tapes. And
nice.
then in college, sales started kind of leveling up for me. I met my first mentor, met him by dropping a note in the roof of a Lamborghini Diablo VT Roadster. And, through a variety of circumstances, he says, hey, you got to learn to really sell. And I ended up at Fletcher Jones Motor Cars in Newport
Mm,
Beach, spent 2 years selling Mercedes over the phone, which then led to a career in mortgages. Again, all through line being phone sales based.
yeah.
And in the mortgage business, I really was at my peak of feeling that sense of like success and passion. I was winning at a level I never had before, had some houses, had some cars. And then 2007 happened, and everybody knows how that story ends. The mortgage business goes away. I've got a whole bunch of 100% financed houses that are underwater and effectively end up in bankruptcy. And that
Wow.
bankruptcy was the beginning of the reemergence of, the digital marketing guy known as Jcron. So that's kind of where the sales perspective started. But the earliest stages of my career, the satisfaction didn't come from what I did. The
Mm,
satisfaction came from being the best at what I was doing.
I love that. I see a lot of, like you mentioned, your dad was a salesperson, and that inspired you, and he said, "Hey, this is what you got to do." And sure, throughout that initial sales calls, I'm sure you've had failures. I'm sure you were like, "Oh my God, this is not working." I don't know. How do you even talk to people? And so you have your dad as a mentor guiding you along the way. Talk to me about, how some of those first years were, because obviously you went from just doing these sales calls to selling cars and homes and whatnot.
So the sales side for me was very much something that you learn very quickly, that the more no's you get, the closer you are to a
Mm,
yes. Like assuming you're in a sales role and sales process where you're not just on an endless drudgery with a product nobody wants and you hate life every day. And if you are, it's probably a bad job and you shouldn't be in that job.
mhm,
But when you're in a sales position and you give yourself long enough to go through that rejection, you know that eventually someone's going to say yes. And so it's more giving yourself permission to not let the no's be a personal commentary on your capabilities or your skill sets or your self-worth. It just didn't line up for them at any point. It's not like when you walk into the grocery store and you see all of these options to choose from. When you walk past brands that you don't take, those brands aren't offended. It just simply means
mm,
that wasn't right for you at that time. you can imagine if you're in a sales career and, your first hour of the day is nothing but no's and you're like, I'm out. I'm not a sales guy. It's like, well, no, like sometimes it's going to take weeks or months. I mean, God forbid you're a real estate agent dealing with people making the largest decision of their lives. And
Yeah.
it might take a year before you see any fruit come out of that. But it's one of those that I would say sales is a journey that is much likened to any type of success in life, where the way I like to describe it is success is the only thing that you have to commit to purchasing that you won't know what it costs until after you've paid the price. That you wake up and you say, I'm going to be successful in whatever category or path you're choosing. But the issue is you can say, I'm committing to being successful, but I don't know if it's going to take 6 months, 6 years, 6 decades. I don't know what it looks like. And for some, you commit to success and then you see a friend have a breakout success in a year and you're on your journey, but you didn't do it in a year. Or maybe somebody does it in 5 years and you're still on your journey and you're frustrated. So sales is no different. And it teaches you that, again, you're on a path you've chosen and you better just keep going. And if you keep going, you're eventually going to get there. You just don't know what it looks like in the interim. So and seeing my dad, his sales career, I mean, ups, downs, some things went great, some things didn't go great. It's still the adventure of how do I make it better? How do I improve it? How do I keep going? But no doubt about it, it trains you that everything in life is eventually a numbers game. And everything in life, if you just go through enough numbers, you're going to find the result you're looking for.
Wow, this is Jake Ryan, this is exactly what I've been waiting to hear, because I've been on the journey of understanding sales, and I failed at first, back in 2007. Well, my journey into working also started as somebody who's calling on the phone, trying to sell them a free subscription to a magazine, right? And I ended up calling the same person on 2 different numbers. And he turned out to be the president of the company that I was working for. It was hilarious. But that also got me into, oh, I can do kind of like the sales and getting a lot of no's, but I didn't really take it to heart in that I was selling something. It really affected my ability to grow as a salesperson when I didn't get the help that I was looking for. So, for example, in 2007, I was working for a used computer sales company in Irvine, California. So I grew up in California, SoCal as well. And I was there for 3 months. And on the third month, they're like, well, you didn't meet your quota. Bye. And I was trying to sell used computers. Now, if I had a mentor like your dad, or if I had other people, walking me through the process, maybe it would have turned out a little differently for me.
It's always possible, but in letting you off the hook a little bit, I mean, I would say that my track record would indicate I am fairly validated as a capable salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean every sales job I had actually worked out for me. So there's a unique element in the world of sales where if you view all jobs as equally difficult or worthwhile, you're always going to look at yourself and say, okay, this was all on me. But when I look back at some of the sales areas that I did not succeed in, some of them were flat out areas that I just didn't think what I was offering was actually valuable. And when you don't believe that,
Oh, wow.
you've got to be a bit of a sociopath to be able to sell that effectively when you don't actually believe in it. So there are jobs where you're going to be asked to sell something or you're going to be asked to perform at a level that deep down you might not even want to. And so I think that's something to be aware of. Hey, maybe the pre-owned computers they were selling were spectacular, or maybe they were the group that was, telemarketing schools slamming them into computers nobody else would buy. And you're just like, not my thing. So I think it's one of those where my favorite definition of sales comes from Dan Sullivan. It truly, to me, is one where if you define sales this way, your best self will always show up. And it is getting people intellectually engaged in a future result that is good for them and getting them emotionally charged to take action on that outcome. And when you think about that process, you've got to have something that is good for whoever you're offering it to. And you have to believe in it enough that you want that person to move down that path for their benefit and for yours. And when you define it that way, you can't help but show up as your best self. So if you're listening to this right now and you're like, man, I'm in a sales position that's not going well for me, my first question is, are you showing up as your best self to that opportunity? And if the answer is no, the thing you're selling probably isn't in alignment with you. Like,
Mm,
you'll do so much better selling Hondas because you love the Honda, you love the reliability, you love everything that makes it a Honda. And if you're selling Mercedes right now and you really hate European cars, you're not going to do well. Go
yeah.
where you're going to love doing this thing. So yeah, that would be the dime store advice on sales careers.
No, that's a really powerful statement. And as I think about my past, and I've converted so many people to using an iPhone or the Mac. They loved Windows and they loved their Android phones. But then as they saw what I was doing, and they saw the product, they're able easily convinced, or were able to switch over. So I guess I do have a little bit of sales in me.
Well, I mean, that's a great example, though. I mean, the pithy saying I always remember is the last four letters of enthusiasm is "I am sold myself," and it's like
Mm,
it's easier for you to have that reaction because you're showing something that you're so passionate about that at the end of it,
mhm,
someone's like, "Yeah, I want that," and maybe they want the excitement you have, maybe they want the proficiency that you have, maybe they want the faith that they're buying a thing that's going to make them better at a thing. Like, for example, I suck at golf, but I
mm.
just went and did a custom fitting because I'm like, man, I am going to get the best clubs imaginable because I hope that, they're going to make me better. And I'm pretty sure I'm still going to suck at golf, just with more expensive golf clubs. But it's still something where you go through that process and you're like, man, I want the excitement and proficiency and passion that this guy who's fitting me for these clubs have. So never, ever underestimate the role that you being excited about what you're doing will play in whatever you're doing, sales or otherwise.
Absolutely. Jake Ron, always with the wisdom. Thank you so much, man. So as we go through your journey and your from sales to then running this multi-million dollar company we all know as Kajabi, and taking it to the paces, and climbing from the little number that they were making to a $2 billion valuation, 2,153%, more in 5 years. Talk to me about how did that happen, and how is that company doing now, or where's going next?
Yeah, so Kajabi, like many successes in life, is sort of everyone views it as like a 10-year overnight success. It's like, oh
Mm,
my gosh, can't believe that happened. If you look at where Kajabi started, Kajabi had unbelievable DNA from day one. Kenny Reeder, the technical co-founder, coded the platform for an entire year at night in his, house when he was working a day job, and did it because he had an idea for a kid sprinkler toy called the Crazy Spray. And the Crazy Spray was a PVC pipe thing you would ride your bike through. And he was going to sell that online, realized he didn't want to be in manufacturing. So decided to provide a materials list from Home Depot and videos on how to put everything together. So it sort of became a project you could build, with your kids. And even as a software engineer, there wasn't a place to easily put a video behind a paywall. Remember this
mhm,
back in 2010. Couldn't put a video behind a paywall, couldn't manage members, couldn't achieve the billing, the PDF download, all of the things that you needed. And he was like, I think somebody out there is going to want this. So it began with this awareness of a very real problem being solved that then evolved into solving that problem for an industry that was primarily selling products via workbooks, CDs, DVDs, physical products that would go
mhm,
out to you and you would watch it that way. And then came Kajabi. And Kajabi became the real beneficiary, but also the real pioneer of this industry growing up. So fast forward to 2016, when I was joining Kajabi as president. Kajabi was 6 million in ARR and about 25 team members. And then 5 years later, we were north of 100 million in ARR, 400 team members, and a $2 billion valuation. So the learnings that can be gotten from that journey are quite a few. One that I would focus on the most is when you have that feeling of knowing something can be far larger than it is in current form. And hopefully knowing that it can be something larger than it is today, and
Mm.
it will be accelerated by the unique abilities that you bring. So I remember when Kenny walked into my office, I had been renting an office from Kajabi for 2 years while I was traveling because they had extra office space. And Kenny just said, "Hey man, how was your weekend?" I said, "Oh, Success Magazine wants me to move to Dallas. I'm not going to do that. So got to figure out what I'm going to work on next." And he said, "Well, you've grown a lot. We've grown a lot. I really think Kajabi could be bigger than I've ever imagined it. And I think you can help us get there. And
Mm.
it's probably easier than moving your shit out of the office." So we laughed about it, got together, and decided to really take on the world. And it was in that moment where we had the awareness that it could be bigger, but we needed to redefine and refocus our resources and how willing we were to bet into that theory pretty significantly. Because when you take a business from a lifestyle business, a business where if it grows, great. If it doesn't grow as fast, that's fine too. Were we profitable? Is it building my lifestyle the way I want it to? When you then move that category into, we are doubling down on growth, we are going after market share, we are taking on aggressive growth trajectory willingly and purposefully, that's a significant mental shift. And so I think that the number one is, do you know empirically, not just because you're passionate about it, but do you know empirically that you are in an industry that is growing and that you can be the market leader in that industry? Those two questions are what would define a star company, which is from a concept called the Boston Box, which, if
Mm.
you're unfamiliar with, Richard Koch, probably my favorite author on the planet, wrote the book The Star Principle, which is a must read, along with his book 80/20 Principle, another must read. But that idea of, is the market growing and are you the market leader? Those are the two things that would define, this can be much bigger than it is today. Once you have that certainty, then comes the personal journey of, do I have the willingness to bring
Mm.
everything to bear on those two assumptions? And that's where it is, are you willing to make less so that the company can grow larger and grow faster? Are you willing to take on the headaches and the organizational challenges of serving in a much bigger way? All of the impact that it will have on how different your life would look. Those are questions you're going to have to commit and recommit at each
Mm.
stage. Because when we were at 6, it was different than we were at 15, when we were at 30, when we were at 50, 60, 80, 100, and beyond. And even today, beyond that, all of those seasons look different. So it's the empirical validation, I have a thing, and I know the thing can be bigger. Then it is the personal commitment of, I'm going to be who I need to be for it to become that thing that I know it can be. And if you've got check marks in both of those boxes, well, buckle up and have all the fun you can have with it.
Man, that's really powerful. And the way you set it up, it literally applies to anybody running any project and looking at the maximum potential anything can technically have. Hence the title that we have, Make Anything as Big as You Want.
As fast as
And
you
then
want
as
and
fast as
exit
you want.
if you want.
Exactly. Exactly. I love it.
With Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, Junaid's kind enough to actually be quoting the cover of my book Billion Dollar Bullseye, which will be coming out September 15th. It's what Kenny and I learned on our journey building Kajabi, and it's really meant to be a litmus test and a framework of what to do when in your company. And it's largely a personal journey, in the sense that when something isn't working in a business, we as entrepreneurs all have our own, let's call it PTSD, that drives the
Mm.
behavior that we're most comfortable with. So you'll see people that when things aren't working the way they want them to, they automatically go to sales and marketing. We've got to sell harder, we've got to market harder, that's what we're going to do. Or you'll see people that immediately go to operations. How can we streamline? How can we optimize? Or you'll see people immediately go to finances. How do we cut our overhead? How do we reduce our spend? So these are the areas that all of us kind of are our entrepreneurial crack, if you will, that we're addicted to when something isn't working the right way. The book is really meant to give you a holistic evaluation of the core areas of your business, in what order to focus on those core areas, and a little bit of a loving, eat your vegetables. Like, the magic
Mm.
in your business is not going to come from the area you're most excited to work on.
Yeah.
Odds are the magic is going to come from the area that you are so either scared of, uncertain of, or overwhelmed by that you habitually neglect. That's really where the magic's probably going to be.
I love that so much. Now, as we're talking about magic, a magic that the entire industry has been talking about, it's becoming a feature in literally all of the applications. The GPT, how do you see GPT or generative pre-trained transformer and AI impact course development and knowledge commerce industry? Because that's something that's AI and GPT is really powerful at.
So my answer may surprise you. I think that actual intelligence still is far more value than artificial
Hmm.
intelligence. I
Oh.
think that what we're seeing right now is the dog and pony show of excitement and parlor tricks of we now just have a Google index that is better organized with a better interface and easier to access, but the information's not new. It's
Hmm.
simply packaged and presented differently. And if the information revolution solved all of our problems, we wouldn't be here. We'd be in
Hmm.
utopia and the computers would be doing all of the work.
Yeah.
And I think that what I see with artificial intelligence today is that all of the minds that I look to, all of the businesses that I know, they don't actually know the business case. And Sundar
Hmm.
Pichai at Google even said, the risk is underinvestment, not overinvestment. And so that's sort of like saying, well, we've got more money than God, so we're going to just spend it and hope for the best. And bear in mind, if you're Google, sure, you can afford to do that because you've
Hmm.
got the money to do it. But if you're you and I, if you actually have to have every dollar in your life sing for its supper and have a tangible take home value, I don't know that AI is where I would be placing all of the weight of where I
Hmm.
believe my company would win today. Doesn't mean it won't change in the future,
Sure.
but today I think that we're looking at something that is able to do very interesting things, but very few impactful things. Like I have not yet met a company where it's like, yeah, we slashed half of our workforce because of AI and what it's doing.
Hmm.
Now, I've met companies that have said we've massively improved our output by augmenting employees with AI tools.
Yeah.
That's a case I believe that can be made. But at the end of the day, if an AI chatbot could help you lose weight, a blog post would have helped you lose weight, a video would have helped you lose
Hmm.
weight, a Twitter post would have helped you lose weight.
Yeah.
Any of these things that are fairly undifferentiated would have helped. But at the end of the day, we are still human beings that want to connect with human beings. And I don't know that anyone's going to be as excited to take action when it's a chatbot regurgitating information. How does a chatbot hold you accountable? How do you
Right.
feel that you're going to have a relationship and you don't want to disappoint a chatbot? You don't. So
Hmm.
I think, like anything, we're watching some pretty unique stuff happen. And if, exponential technologies have taught us anything, we're probably in the phase where everyone believes it's not going to do much before it does a whole lot.
Yeah.
But I have yet to see a business case that would indicate that we're all out of a job and we should all just learn how to use chatbots.
Yeah, that's a really well put way. And as I've been watching the journey and as I've been watching it grow, I mean, we've been using AI since Google's been around, right? That's technically AI. That's technically artificial intelligence where you're combining data and regurgitating, or you're, providing links to information and whatnot. So it's just like you said, it's a better package way, and it's probably not something that's going to change anything. It's
Well, I
just,
think I think in a way what's going to really screw us over
hmm.
is AI today is the absolute epitome of intellectual junk food. Like there is no expertise, there is no wisdom. There is a computer that took all of the blog posts that you would normally read yourself. And
Hmm.
you're going to qualify, is this source credible? Is this person trustworthy?
Yeah.
Is this actually true? Well, for AI, those filters don't exist.
No,
It's
they
just
don't.
aggregating all of it, and then it's giving you an answer. But the answer it's giving you is not actually an answer. It's just
Hmm.
simply a compilation of what is out there. So
Yeah.
if you think about how much of our world today is misinformation and disinformation, and you know that that's what's training a large language or a language learning model, LLM, large language model,
Hmm.
it's going to be something where you're perceiving this as an answer. But really, all it is a summary of all of the available answers diluted
Yes.
appropriately to cram it into one answer.
Yes.
And if that's the level of intellectual weight or importance that you want to give the question you're asking, you can. So I might be perfectly fine letting AI
Hmm.
choose a Chinese restaurant I'm going to try.
Sure.
I don't know that I'm going to let AI choose my health decisions or my life
No.
decisions or my career decisions. And
Yeah.
maybe as a society we are there. maybe we're all ready to hop on the Wally ship in our little floating pods with screens in front of our face and live a TikTok bite-sized life and, take the answer that AI gives. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm not, but some people might be. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point, Jake Ron. Dude, this has been fun. Let's dive into your bullseye formula that you mentioned in your book. Can you explain what it is and how it helps businesses scale?
Yeah, absolutely. So the metaphor that the book tells the stories through is this idea of a bullseye or dartboard and being good at darts. And so for a lot of people in life, they are going to believe that the way to win is to be good at the thing. So if you think the way to win is being good at darts, you're going to pursue life a certain way.
Mm.
Whereas my argument would be the way to win at darts is not necessarily to be good at darts, but to be throwing in a bigger bullseye than anybody else that you're playing darts with. And so, this idea of this dartboard and this dartboard expanding as you go through the 7 core areas of focus is what the book is going to lay out. And so, if you think about the 7 areas, starting with the bullseye in the middle, we're going to start with purpose, then profit, then product. Those core 3 are your foundation. If you don't have those 3, there's not a business to be had. Just do not pass go, start over. The 4 amplifiers that take place after that are going to be prestige, promotion, persuasion, and people, which is prestige, your customer experience, promotion, your marketing, persuasion, your sales strategy, and people being the people that are hired to run all of those systems. And the book is laid out that way very purposefully because one of the things that I have a lot to say about that's a little bit unpopular is I put the hiring of people last. And the reason for that is I think that we as a generation by and large have gotten used to this idea of just hire A players, just get talented people, and everything will be amazing. And if that were true, every company would be successful because every company wants to hire good people. And if
Mm-hmm.
you think about the amount of books that are written on hiring good people or motivating good people or keeping good people, there's more books than you're ever going to want to read. And they all say the
Yeah.
same thing, which is get good people, keep good people, motivate good people. My theory is that the businesses that actually win and the businesses that actually get A players are the people that have done the work on all of those systems that
Mm.
A players are going to want to come in and run and improve. Because if you've ever hired an A player and you trick them in the interview process to, let's say they're going to come in and run your customer service division, and you're telling them that they're going to have the opportunity to take on the world and have an amazing customer service division, but really, it is a total dumpster fire, that
Mm-hmm.
everyone hates working in that division, that the product has a ton of deficiencies. So every customer service rep is just getting barraged every day with fury. And you're bringing this A player in. That A player is going to leave as quickly as they got there, and they're going to resent that you tricked them into taking the job because A
Yeah.
players don't want to fix your dumpster fire. So this book is meant to be a bit of a call to arms of if you as a business owner truly want to grow something, and like in our case, $1 billion valuation. I think the number in the book was 1 out of every 5 million companies actually can be a unicorn. So it's pretty rare, but it's one
Mm.
of those reminders that if you have goals that are that big, you need to be focusing on your purpose, your profit, and your product before anything else. And if you're neglecting those elements, thinking this 37-point Facebook ad hack is going to save your business, or that harder closing salespeople are going to save your business, or overhyped marketing, or disingenuous customer service protocols, or just hiring talent to fix all of these systems,
Yeah.
that's just never been my experience. So the book is meant to give you the confidence that if you're unlocking potential at your purpose, your profit, your product, prestige, promotion, persuasion, and people in that order, you really can't help but win.
I love how you shared that the 7 core principles, and it's true. Like when a Formula One racing company hires the best driver, they're giving them they're giving that driver the best car that they can produce, and then he can perform the best. But if you put the best race car driver in a Pinto or a car that's not that great, well, they're not going to be able to win, and they're going to leave as soon as they can.
I got to tell you, that is a really great metaphor, and I might steal that. So
Please,
just so you know,
please do.
everybody, trademark Junaid, yep, he got it. But you're 100% right. Like, why would you go and pay the money to get the best talent in the world to
Hmm.
then not let that talent be in an environment where they can
Yeah.
win? And it's one of those things, like, let's just say hypothetically, you love the iPhone and you love Johnny Ive and you love all of the things that Johnny Ive helped design.
Hmm.
Johnny Ive might be the greatest designer in the world, but he might not be a designer that's really effective if it's just him. So why in the world would you go pay the tens of millions of dollars
Yeah.
you're going to need to get Johnny Ive if all of the things that he's going to need to be Johnny Ive aren't there? And I think that that is something that us business owners, we oftentimes abdicate when we should delegate. We
Mm.
hand off, throw the hot potato to whoever we can hire, rather than ask, well, have we actually done the work to try and improve this system? Have we given the thought to how we can make this better? Have we truly looked at this in a way that we can say it's time to bring in a pro that knows more than we do because we've done all that we can do? And that person's going to be able to see that.
I love that. Now, what were some of the critical strategies and decision that led to the massive success at Kajabi achieving 2,153% growth?
So I think for us, number one, we were playing in a universe that was growing, that
Mm.
we were not, trying to sell fax machines today. We were very much in an industry that the creator economy continues to flourish and will continue to flourish because people want very specific education and entertainment, and the creator
Mm.
economy is providing that. So I think that's going to continue. So we were in a universe that to say that anyone can do it is not really intellectually honest. We were growing in a world that was growing. In addition to that, we unlocked elements that I believe were very differentiated in our space. And primarily, it was this idea of recognition and referral. So the largest category of our growth came from a channel that was combined between our Kajabi Hero program and our Kajabi Partner program. And the quote that I like to reference here that's a little bit morbid, but Napoleon Bonaparte said, "My life as a general changed when I realized men would die for a blue ribbon." And
Mm.
what that's talking about is how core and fundamental recognition is to our journey as human beings. And online entrepreneurs, creators, whatever you call them, it's a lonely thing. It's a lot of hours in front of a computer screen talking to the universe that your spouse, your parents, your friends, lots of people might be like, "Yeah, we don't get it. Why are you doing it? Nobody succeeds on the internet. You're an idiot." And we decided that we wanted to recognize that journey and we wanted to honor it. So Kenny actually one day just was like, "Oh, you know what? What about hashtag Kajabi Hero?" And came up with this idea that our customers are effectively our heroes. And we started by just sending out a t-shirt. And that
Mm.
t-shirt quickly snowballed into a program today that recognizes people for dozens of different areas of their online journey, celebrates them by sending them something in the mail that says, "Hey, we think what you're doing is cool, and we want to tell you that." And it became this owned media machine where people wanted to post. They wanted to show the world that they were doing something. They wanted to show the world that a company said, "Great job, we're excited about you." And so that media machine started going. Well, what then happened is we have our Kajabi partner program, which, unlike many software companies, we do not allow anyone to promote Kajabi for an affiliate commission if they are
Mhm.
not actively on the platform. We didn't want anybody just strip mining and marketing Kajabi that didn't
Yeah.
actually use and believe in Kajabi. So all of a sudden, we started noticing our Kajabi heroes growing, and we started saying, "Well, you know what? You're building on a really cool platform and you're teaching a lot of really cool things. I bet that a lot of your students that are learning X, Y, or Z from you might want to teach something as well. So why not tell them who sent you that super cool t-shirt?" And before you
Mhm.
know it, we had this symbiotic flywheel effect where the more people we recognize, the more partners that were referring to Kajabi, the more people referring to Kajabi, the more heroes we were able to create. And it just spun faster and faster and faster and faster. And it is still one of, if not the largest organic channels we have. So you end up building these flywheels that may look very small at the time, but as
Mhm.
they continue to grow and grow and grow, they start having all of these exciting offshoots. So it's like we have this Kajabi Hero program, partner program, flywheel. Well, as that keeps getting bigger and bigger, the brand flywheel and the awareness flywheel of Kajabi being a platform you can achieve cool things on Well, that gets bigger and bigger, which then makes
Mm-hmm.
this bigger and bigger. And so you end up looking back, and now you have all of these growth machines that you can no longer constrain the growth of the company.
Yeah.
And that's when, you know, again, going back to what are those indicators of I have a thing I want to go all in on. When you see flywheels happening on their own and creating other flywheels in the process, that's when it's like, okay, I got to go. One of the most embarrassing stories on that point, Junaid, was we were trying to learn how to do paid advertising. And so we were at the time spending about $1 million a month in paid ads. And our team was like, we are crushing it. Here's the attribution. Oh my gosh, this is so profitable. And Kenny and I were like, I don't know. This doesn't feel quite right. And our team's like, no, here's the charts, here's the graphs. It's like, yeah, no, I get it that you're showing that the more we spend, the company grows. But I don't know that it's actually the paid ads.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like, you know what? Turn them all off. And they're like, what do you mean turn them all off? It's like, guys, we're bootstrapped, we're profitable. It's totally fine. If we're wrong and we don't grow that month, great, spin them all back up. Well, guess what? We turned off the ads for a month. The growth rate continued unaffected. So here we are thinking we are so smart on paid media, but really what we're doing is we're setting $1 million a month on fire, and the flywheels that were built were what were really driving the company.
Yeah.
So for us, that was a very embarrassing way to learn that those flywheels are the things that you try to build as many as possible.
Man, that's a really good aspect. I mean, again, looking at the KPIs, where's the actual traffic? Where's the actual people coming from, as opposed to, no, we just keep feeding it and we keep getting back. Having those clear data points, I think is absolutely.
Well, and that's, I think, Junaid, to your point, what I love about the entrepreneurs that I'm seeing today is I'm seeing more and more entrepreneurs do things that are important enough to them that they want to build their business in a way that they don't have to only do what they can measure. That today we have this effect where I think everyone believes if you can't measure it, it's not worth doing. And I am the exact opposite. That I think you need to be data informed, not data driven. Thank you, Patty McCord, from your book, Powerful. Because if you are only data driven, you wouldn't make the same decisions. You wouldn't invest in the same ways. But there is a very real impact to the fact that we didn't track the clicks that came from each t-shirt, but I can watch our organic growth change when I see photos of t-shirts. So there are elements of that business where there is a little bit more art than science. And if you're in a business where you know tangibly that when things happen, you're watching growth come out of that, even if you can't measure it exactly. And I think podcasting is another one. It's and for those of you listening, if you haven't gotten Junaid to help you with a home studio, you really should. If you haven't had Junaid tell you why you should start a podcast, you really should. But it's one of those where the amplification effects of being out there, of having your voice in the world, of increasing the surface area on which luck gets to find you, those are all very valuable. And I think that most people are like, well, I can't measure it, so I'm not going to do it. It's like, well, that's sad. And I'm telling you, you're going to miss a lot of things because the most magic typically starts with something that you can't measure, that you just have to try.
Shakran, I'm gonna give you another one of these things. Some of the things that we do that we can't track, right? When children growing from age 0 to 5, you can't track any of that stuff. But that's the most fun age because we get to see this growth. Get to see the learning, the words that they learn, and it's absolutely amazing. And I think that's how businesses should look at. I mean, yes, you do need to make money to survive, but again, having that passion and having that heart into the business, I think, really important and shows who you are.
Well, and to your point, Junaid, and this is, sort of one of my concluding thoughts. Kenny and I have now been out of operations, effectively retired for 3 years. And the stories we talk about the most are the stories from the earlier days, the stories from the mistakes, from the hilarious mishaps, from the uncoveries and the different team members, like all of that universe that right now is probably a source of frustration or a source of uncertainty. will be the seasons that you miss whenever the inevitable change happens and the business is either sold or the business is so systemized you don't have to run it or any of those things. And so it's hard when you're in those moments to see that the journey is the destination. And once it happens, you'll look back and you'll be like, man, those were the best. They are so much fun. Whether that means that, something else will get started by me, I don't know. My goal with the book was I said I wanted to write a book, so now it's out there. Whether anything happens to it, I have no idea. But it's one of those things where I have no idea what's coming next, but I do know that I wish I had known in those seasons how much I would miss those seasons, because I would have pursued them with joy versus at times pursuing it like work. They were surprisingly fun.
I love it. Jonathan, J. Cron, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for your time. We're going to take a quick break. Then we'll do 3 hacks, and then we'll jump into our fun questions. Hey guys, welcome back. We've been talking with Jay Cron. He's got 3 actual hacks for entrepreneurs so that you can use these to scale your businesses effectively.
All right, 3 hacks for all of you. Number 1, I'm going to give you 3 books that if you read them and overlap them, they will give you a perfect business plan every single time. Richard Koch, Star Principle, Richard Koch, 80-20 Principle, Richard Koch, Simplify. And if you overlay each of those 3, if you imagine an overlapping Venn diagram, you are going to get a perfect view into the few things that drive the majority of results. You are going to have a complete certainty in the macroeconomic environment in which you operate and the potential that the business will have. And you will get the answer to the only business decision you'll ever have to make, which is, should I be a price or proposition simplifier? And once you have those 3 things, you can't help but win. So if you've never read those 3 books, stop whatever you're doing, read them now. You'll thank me later. Hack number 2, I would say, is I'd probably have to give it to take notes by hand. I think that today, entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs that run companies, we have allowed devices to destroy our ability to do deep work. When we're in Zoom meetings, we're checking emails, we're responding to texts. When we're at in-person meetings in offices, it's iPads or phones or anything else that is not pen and paper. And there is a kinesthetic learning element that when you use pen and paper, it will change the way your brain processes the information. It forces you to be more intentional with what you write down, so you're not trying to capture everything. It forces you to be more elegant in what you're writing down so that you're going to actually get the things that you want to remember. For me, handwritten notes have been a game changer. I've got an unbelievable amount of pens and an unbelievable amount of notebooks. I look like a nerd from, before the computer days. So write it by hand, draw it by hand. If you want some bonus tips, pick a pen tip or a marker tip that's large enough that you can't write small on the paper. Because if you're going to write small, you're going to write down too much stuff. And I would say the third hack would be, I would have to say, embrace the periods of difficulty. And what I mean by that is, I think so many people today wake up every morning and get talked out of doing the thing they should do or are meant to do by everybody else's posts about how mental health or work-life balance or whatever, insert whatever current topic of excitement becomes an excuse rather than empowerment. And I feel like so many people today are getting talked out of what they could do or should do because somebody else drops a really pithy quotable about how you need to take care of yourself. And if you don't have your 4-hour morning self-care routine, you can't be successful. Or if you don't cold plunge, you can't be successful. Or if you don't feel like your mental health is where it needs to be, you can't be successful. That my experience in life has been that you can't live in the extremes, but the extremes is where you're going to find the magic. So I would just say, if you're in a season of grind, embrace it, love it. Don't let it become drudgery. Don't let it kill you. But the way that I saw this phrased a couple of weeks ago, but success doesn't have to cost everything, but it is going to cost something. And I think that as long as you give yourself the opportunity to embrace that, all the hacks are going to work.
I love it, dude. This is really powerful, and it makes me smile because yes, we do see those quotes, and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? It's almost like telling you you're doing something wrong. What the fact of the matter is, that's their right, which doesn't mean that it's your wrong.
And number one hack, I forgot. Here's your bonus hack. Do not listen to anybody that doesn't have what you want to have ever
Cool.
for any reason. If they're
Cool.
not in the shape you want to be in, don't listen to them about health. If they're not in the financial position you want to be in, don't listen to them about wealth. If they're not in a work-life balance position that you want to be in, don't listen to them. So please, please, please don't spend your day shopping for wisdom or mentors in sound bites when the magic is in doing the work. Please, please, please. And that's coming from a guy that's on a podcast writing a book. So you know it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Jake Ron, let's jump into the last segment of the episode. Fun 6 questions. Number 1, what is the one hobby that you wish you got into?
Exercise. I have never liked exercise. I only did it when I played sports and had to play sports. Now at 42 years old, with a Body by In-N-Out Burger here in Southern California, I wish I had adopted a training habit that was more regular. I'm working to do so now. So when Junaid invites me back on the podcast, I can tell you how it's going.
I love it. I love it. Next up, what did you want to be when you were a child?
I wanted to own a 7-Eleven. So when I would leave school from junior high, I would walk past 7-Eleven, I would get some candy, a Slurpee, and I just thought owning a 7-Eleven would be like the coolest job ever. Like you'd be a business owner and you'd be surrounded by candy and snacks and cool things. And, obviously 7-Elevens are super cool. So I wanted to own a 7-Eleven. That was it.
I love that. I mean, our kids, we love our Slurpees and we love our candy at 7-Eleven. So yeah, that's a really fun one. All right, next up, what is your favorite movie or TV show?
Ooh, the one I'm rewatching right now is Silicon Valley, which I love for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have to say a show that I was very impressed by how good it was actually Schitt's Creek. Never
Oh,
saw it coming, and I've now watched it 3 or 4 times. It's just really well done.
no, that's a really good one for sure. I mean, all of the things that they have to go through because, well, life happens, and you've got to deal with the punches, and still stand tall. Next up, what movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
Oh wow. Um, I got to play a character in a movie. I would probably want to be Iron Man.
Oh
I
yes.
cannot imagine a better movie character, life adventure. I mean, billionaire philanthropy, playboy, superhero,
Mm-hmm.
and superhero not with any like, weird nuclear accident that gave you powers or from
Yeah.
another planet or whatever.
Yeah.
Like between Batman and Iron Man, it almost makes you feel like it's attainable. So yeah, any of those would be super cool.
I love it. My favorite is Iron Man as well. His story arc and the 20 years of being an Iron Man that he's been in the MCU. And I don't know if you saw just recently, he's going to be coming back. Robert Downey Jr. is going to be coming back and playing another character in Dr. Victor Von Doom.
Good, because he needs to. He's too good at it.
He absolutely is. Talking about Iron Man, I just finished after 2 years building a full life-size action
Oh
figure.
wow,
Thing is massive.
that's amazing.
Took me forever to build this guy.
Well, yeah, I mean, dude, just think about the moving parts. I mean, it's
Yeah,
nuts. That's
yeah,
totally crazy.
yeah. This is awesome. All right, Matt. Last question. If you were a board game, what would it be?
Monopoly,
Yeah,
100%. So
100%.
much of my life built on that game. So much of it, learning early on where it's like you're a kid and you're like, no, I want to hold on to my money. But then you find out you got to buy all the properties and that's how you
Mm-hmm.
win. But no, for me, my board game, my life is I absolutely feel like I'm going around the same track over and over and over again, trying to improve and trying not to go to,
Yeah,
the chance or the community chest or whatever. And yeah,
yeah.
Monopoly. I'm going with that.
I love it. Well, Jake Ron, thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights and strategies with us today. For our listeners who want to learn more about you and your work, where can they find you?
You can check me out at jcron.com, jcron.com, and then LinkedIn and Twitter. Pretty easy to find, not super popular. I'm not an online celebrity, just a dude that built some software. So,
Love it.
but nonetheless, great being here. And for those of you listening, so glad that you're plugged into Junaid. And in the world of podcasting, looking for leverage and how to have media that matters, that can be repurposed and really build a lot of your brand while you're sleeping, you couldn't be in a better place. So Junaid can tell you how to do it without being overwhelmed, without hating the technology. I'm a guy that barely can turn on my microwave and sometimes can't. And Junaid's taught me how to have a studio, which today I'm not using because I lent it to a friend of mine, idiot me. And then somebody wants to interview me when I don't even have the stupid studio. So you're going to have so much fun. It's a killer channel and thrilled to be on it.
Thanks again, Jay Cron. And to our listeners, thank you again for tuning into another episode of Hacks and Hobbies. Until next time, keep your hacking way. Keep hacking your way to success. And we're out.